Okay, we left off in Daf Gimel. We're discussing Rabbi's reason why the shliach said funny nechtam. He says the reason why the shliach said funny nechtam is because because you have to certify the document, and since it came from overseas, you're not going to be able to locate the witnesses who signed or people who recognize the signatures. And if the husband should come and question the validity of the get, how are you going to count the husband? So therefore you have the shliach saying funny nechtam. It was signed before me, and therefore it's not a forgery. I saw it signed. So it wasn't forged. Someone asked the question, but he's only an 8 echot. Someone says Mishum aguna kilu barabonim. That's what we're holding. As we said earlier. Because aguna, we have, so Maria said, but is it a kula? It's a chumrah. That's where we're at. Mishum aguna kilu barabonim. It's right above the halfway mark. So Maria says, hi kula. Who? Chumrah? This is not being lenient. This is creating a problem. Why? If initially you'd have 2 people delivering the get, and they would say it was signed before us. Losi bal ma'aro poselek. When the husband comes and he questions the validity of the get, he's not able to invalidate the get. Chad osi bal ma'aro poselek. But with one, he what? Due to his contesting its validity, he invalidates the get. Okay? So what have we accomplished? We've accomplished nothing. We want to count the husband, but if it's 1 against 1, it's chad keneged chad. So why do I believe the single shliach more than the baal? On that, our answer is, before, how many people does the shliach have to present the get? Is it 2 or 3? Reb Yochanan, Reb Chanina, charom b'fnei shnayim. One says it has to be given in the presence of 2, charom b'fnei gimel. 3. So therefore, the shliach initially knows that he has to present the get in a certain context. And he has to attest to the fact it was done a certain way. Because of this, he understands that what? He's answerable to what he says. He's responsible for what he says. So therefore, what he says has to be very accurate. Because it can reflect badly on him. If afterwards there should be a problem. Therefore, medik dayik. Therefore, he's very exacting initially when he takes the get, to make sure everything was done correctly. And as a result of the osil ri navshei, because he doesn't want it to what? To reflect badly on him. So with him, we have an anand tzaddik. Why do we believe him? We could say with absolute definiteness that the accuracy of a statement is true. The husband, when he comes, so the husband, it's his word against, but the shlich is more than just his word. Because of the anand tzaddik, so the strength of the testimony of the Yerechot is greater than what the husband is saying.
So could you say the same thing for a shtar, a regular shtar? Why? Because if one witness comes and
no, you don't know. One witness, no.
If one person comes in front of 3 people.
No, it has nothing to do with a shtar. First, the document has nothing to do with 3 people. Lender comes and he wants to collect. This man was appointed to be a shliach to deliver. So first he had to be appointed a shliach. It had to be written a certain way. And he has to attest to that fact when he presents it before 2 or 3 people. So you have to say something, and unless you're really definite on whatever you're saying is correct, you're not going to say it. Because later, if the question should come up, you're going to look bad. How do you say something which you weren't sure of initially? So therefore, not to look bad, that it should reflect poorly on him. He's going to make sure everything he says is accurate as he's saying it. That establishes the anand tzaddik. The example I gave was the other day. Remember we spoke about a non-Jew who's an expert taster. Yeah. Even though Goy has no nemonos, a non-Jew has no belief whatsoever. But because he's an expert, a professional taster, if he should be caught in a lie, how does it reflect on him as a professional? His reputation will be destroyed. So we could say with certainty what he's telling you is the truth. Not because he has a nemonos, we believe a goy. To ask him, about anything else, he'd have no belief. But in his area of expertise, because he will be hurt seriously if factually he's caught in a lie, therefore he's definitely telling you the truth. We could say with certainty he's telling you the truth.
So this shliach comes and testifies on the signatures. He says these signatures are valid signatures.
He says, I'm a shliach. I was appointed by the husband to be a shliach, and this is not a forgery because I saw it signed.
So it's signed.
I saw it. So then
what? So what's the difference with that and a regular star? I don't understand the difference.
Regular star. Well, what's a regular star?
Someone comes and has a star that's signed. Two people are on signature. You have to confirm those signatures. So.
So it's his word against his. I come and say, I recognize the signature. Therefore, what?
It doesn't have to say it in front of other people.
No. Let's say Let's say the court has a document. The borrower says he never gave the document, so the court puts out word. We need witnesses either who signed or people who recognize. One man shows up in court. He says, they say, you're only one. Do you have anybody else who knows? How does it reflect badly? I know the signature. I recognize it. One's not enough. Right? A single witness is not enough. But over here, he's going as a shliach. And you have to present it and make your statement in a certain context. So therefore, initially you're appointed to make a statement in an official capacity. So you're going to say it in the most responsible way. Otherwise, it makes you look bad. Now, it's interesting. Tosas has a question over. The Gemara asked before the Gemara answered this. The Gemara says if the husband comes and questions the validity of the get, it says uposele. What does the word uposel mean? He invalidates it. He invalidates the get. So Tosas has a question: does it mean the get is posel, or does it mean factually if he gave the get is a valid get? It's valid. It's valid. Posel means it's tinged with question. You understand? B'di'evet, if the woman took the get and married, we're not going to force a divorce because the husband's only murmurings. He's coming to make trouble. The presumption is the get was written correctly. Is not a problem.
She's divorced.
She's divorced. That's what Tosas concludes. Even though the Gemara uses the word posil. Posil means it's invalidated. That's the connotation of posil, and that's what he starts off over with. The third Tosas on the page. Yesh l'forish the posle mamish. It could be interpreted that what? When the husband comes, the Gemara uses the term posle, literally, he invalidates the get. Ava gavad lo mehemin, although he's not believed. When we say posle means rabbinical, you're not on a Torah level. Although the husband's not believed, v'lek el laz balmo, it's only slander or murmurings. Mipsel, but rabbinically, because since they're slander, they're murmurings, we don't want that get to be used. Because when a woman's divorced, it should be unquestionably a valid get. And if there's any question, rabbinically we invalidate the get. That's the way Tosas starts. The word mifsel means rabbinically it's invalidated. So Tosas asks, Im Tomar, Im Kain, Maisol v'dachtem hani b'fonei nechtam, Kain v'dakati ikalas. If that's the case, what's even the consideration that you say fonei nechtam? If mifsel means literally, rabbinically disqualified, so what's the value of the shliach saying fonei nechtam? If the husband comes and he challenges the validity to get, it's possible. Why? What's the value? The rov pomim lo yotzi sheyizbo shlo yameineu. The husband's not going to show up. The husband doesn't want to look like a fool. Here, a person comes in official capacity and says, fonei nechtam. The husband says, what, I'm going to come make trouble? But you understand, there are all kinds of people out there. So the majority of cases, the husband's not going to come. So he attests to the fact, to the validity to get that it's not a forgery. Miu, however, imapik lei, but if the husband does come and he challenges the validity of the get, mifsul, it is rabbinically. Rabbinically, it's invalidated, rabbinically. Just want to go to the end. But he says, but the Ri says he rejects it. The word mifsul cannot mean that it's rabbinically invalidated. And because of las, because murmurings, chazal, they're not going to validate the get. When does it say if the get is challenged, you have to bring witnesses? It's in Eretz Yisrael where you don't have to say funny nechtam. Right? The Mishnah says if it's challenged, you find witnesses because it's in Eretz Yisrael. You'll be able to locate to it. It doesn't say hamevi get midias hayam. It doesn't say that, and if it's questioned, you have to after the shlich, you have to certify the get. It doesn't say that. So it's clear from the Mishnah that post facto, regardless of what happens, it's a valid get. But we want to avoid even murmurings. We want to avoid. Factually, even if the husband comes, the get a get if the shlich said funny nechtam. He says, "V'nireh lefarsh." What's it mean? Uposil, hainu she'aminu laz. Posil means that we're gonna because people will listen to the murmurings of the husband. That's the reason why it's gonna taint the get. We don't want the get to be tainted. However, avol mikomokum get kosher. Regards, once the shlich says funny nechtam, and it's clear he established that it's a valid get, it's not a forgery. The husband coming at worst, he's just making trouble. You know, people will talk. We don't even want people talking. So now the Gemara says that since there's an anasadik, that the shliach has made it dayak, that he's very meticulous, and initially to make sure all the information is accurate, it's not a forgery. Therefore, there's not even murmurings. There's not even las. The husband is totally ignored if he should show up in court. No, nothing. What the shliach already established. So that's the Gemara's question. So if that would be the case, no, then you'd have to locate real witness. You'd have to locate two witnesses.
Don't they pull the husband and say, you know, don't they say to him, did you appoint this person as your witness, as your agent?
He's not.
He's challenging the agency.
He's challenging the validity of the get.
Wasn't the shmall?
No, it's a forgery. It's a forgery. I forged the signatures. It's a forgery. I know, so that's the worst question, but it's one against one, right? So that the Gemara says, it says, Osi balu mifsalei. The husband's going to come and invalidate the get. So Tosas says, the word, although mifsal means invalid, doesn't mean that. It means it'll be seen as a get that's invalidated, but it's not invalidated. The get is kosher, but it'll create a question to its validity. That's a mifsalei. Okay, let's go further. Now the Gemara is going to ask a question. Rava says, why does the shlich say funny nechtam? Rava says, because eid mitzul l'kaimo. So this is the obvious question. So if it's eid mitzul l'kaimo, so you say funny nechtam. What do you say funny nechtav? Rava is lishma is not a problem. As the Gemara says, stam safri did 90 migmigri. Even a chutz loretz, the average sofer is proficient in the laws of lishma. Correct? We said even Rameh would agree. It's not a problem. Because it's like an infinitesimal minority who may not know.
Does nechtam mean written and nechtam means sealed?
Signed. Chasim is signed. Means signed. So, but if the reason why the shlich has to attest to its value is purely, if the husband shouldn't come and say it's a forgery, just say funny nechtam. Forgery is always the signatures. It has nothing to do with funny nechtav. That's the Gemara's question. Right. And according to Rabbah, you should say funny nechtav. What's nechtam? Yeah.
But nechtam, that's not referring to the get being written, and nechtam means the get that was written was signed.
Signed means it's two different. One's forgery. It's not a forgery. The other is written l'shma. So according to Rabbah, what do we need nechtam? And according to Rabbah, what do we need nechtav? That's going to be Gemara's question. And also, if in fact it's for l'shma, you say b'fonei nechtav l'shma, right? The shlich doesn't say b'fonei nechtav l'shma, just b'fonei nechtav b'fonei nechtam. That's what Rabbah says to Rabbah. If the reason is the reason why they legislated the statement is because the concern is l'shma, so let him say l'shma. He doesn't say a word about l'shma, right? It's an obvious question. V'Rava my time in Loma Karabah. Why doesn't Rabbah concur with Rabbah? Now let's understand something. The Gemara said before that Stam Safri Dain Migri, even Chutz Loretz, the average sofer is proficient in this area. So that's the reason why he doesn't agree to Rabbah. There's no reason to be concerned for the minority of the minority who may not be. That's not a reason. They're not going to legislate any special statement. So what is Rabbah? Why does he disagree with Rabbah? What's even the basis for the question? We know throughout in daily life, you bring a monetary document, it has to be substantiated, it has to be certified. Of course, you can always say it's a forgery, correct? But l'shma, we're saying the average sofer, even a chutz loretz, is proficient in this area. So what kind of question? Rava, why don't you agree with Rabbah? The answer is because it's not a concern. That's why I don't agree.
But at one point it was a concern, right?
No, the Gemara says it's not clear. The Gemara, we had the Gemara in Beis. If it would be concerned, then you'd have to have two witnesses.
So at one point they didn't know, or so
No, they always knew.
So then what's even the why was it so?
So the Gemara says
Rabba, then?
for Laz. No, Rabba is a question.
Rabba.
So that's that. The Gemara says. The Gemara concludes it's only the husband shouldn't make trouble. That's the reason why I rely on of the testimony of the witness. That's why over here one person's enough. The shliach is enough. Because it's not a real concern. It's not a real concern issue. It's a purely Laz. It's a Laz. The husband can make trouble. We don't want to make him to make trouble.
So then the question of Rabba now is.
So what's the question? Rabba, why don't you concur with Rabba? It's not a concern. What should I concur? The other's a concern. We have throughout in daily life, you have a document, it has to be certified. So this also has to be certified. So what's the basis of the question? Rav my tamalom Rabba? Right? How do we understand the question? So what would you say? Howard, what do you say? Harvey. Okay. You know, the Gemara says something, you know, in a number of places in Shas, the Gemara says a certain Amora made a statement, and it says, Mochale b'marova. When they heard the question or the statement, it says they laughed at him in Eretz Yisrael. So the Amora says, you shouldn't laugh. Because since the one who made that statement is a Gavar Rabbah, a Gavar Rabbah doesn't make nonsensical statements. You don't understand what he's saying. You understand if he said it, there's a basis for what he's saying. You have to understand what he's saying. So to mock it and to dismiss it, that it's nonsensical, there's no such thing. Because the Gavar Rabbah said it. Understand? If Rabbah understands that the reason why you have said Fani Nechtam is because there's a concern Lishma, so now the question is, if Rabbah has this concern, why doesn't Rabbah have this concern? Is it a concern, not a concern? That's the Gemara. How does he know clearly, factually, that Rabbah's position is incorrect? How does he know that? That's the Gemara's question. Rabbah's assuming a position. So it's not a baseless position. So that means he has to have uncontestable fact, proof that Rabbah has no basis for his position. What is that? That's the Gemara. They're arguing, it seems. You could say they're arguing, they're not arguing. They're arguing the reality. They're not arguing the reality. They're arguing, is that enough of a reason for them to legislate it? For that miuta de miuta, even Reb Meir is not concerned for such a small minority, is that enough reason to legislate funny nechtam? So that's the first question. But Rabbah felt it was. How does Rabbah know definitely Rabbah it's incorrect? Rabbah's position is incorrect.
Maybe he once heard of a case that was the case that was just for that probability that.
Okay, we're going to have a Russian edition coming out next week. Okay, the Gemara answers something else. Rabba my tamelom karabo, omaloch mikton von a nechtav lishmo, von a nechtam lishmo. If what we're addressing, the concern we're addressing is lishmo, so when Chazal they legislated the agent has to say von a nechtam, they should say von a nechtav lishmo. That's the crux of the problem. Before it was written lishmo, was signed lishmo. But there's no mention of lishma. Why isn't there a mention of lishma? So evidently, if there's no mention of lishma, evidently that's not the concern. We're not worried about lishma. That since it's such a small minority, that's not a reason to legislate the shliach has to attest to any fact. That area is covered. So why do you have to say it? So it's a funny nechtav. What nechtam? What is the meaning of those words? It's authentic. It's an authentic signature. So that's Eidim Mitzuyim L'Kaimo. But Rabbah is going to respond. He says, if that's the case, if it's to certify the document, why talk about the writing? Just speak about the signatures. That's going to be Rabbah's response. We'll say Rabbah bedinu the listening. Rabbah says, in fact, he should say lishma. When they legislate, he should say lishma. Ella the phenomenal. Ella the mavshis leidibura. If he's going to have to make a lengthy statement, you're going to extend his statement, osel magazio. Wait 1 second. There's a difference between saying 2 words or 3 words. If he says that additional, there's a concern, he may actually abbreviate it. And if he's supposed to say lishma and doesn't say lishma, the halach is it's not a valid statement. Because we'll see the Gemara says if you alter what Chazal dictated, especially in this area where it has to do with divorce, rabbinically the child's a mamzer. Rabbinically the child would be considered, it's not a valid get. So rather than saying more, we prefer he says less, and we'll see Rashi in a moment. So therefore, Hashanami, Gemara says, Hashanami ozil megasyu. So when he says 2 words, he also may abbreviate it to a greater degree. Gemara says, Chad mitlas goyis. A person says 3 words, he abbreviates that. Chad mitarti lo goyis. But if he's only saying 2 words, to abbreviate one of the 2, say just 1 word, he's not. So Rashi says, but he's saying 4 words. So he says, no, each one is a separate statement. It was written before me, it was signed before me. You don't look, it's 2 different, he's addressing 2 points. So if each point had 3 words, we're concerned he may abbreviate and only say 2 of the 3. But now that it's 2, he's going to say the full number, and he won't abbreviate that. Okay? So Rashi says, how do you know it's lishma? So Rashi says, either we'll ask him, like he says on Beis and Beis, the shlich comes to Beis and says, Foni nech, Foni nechtav. So the people will say, what do you mean? What do you mean, Foni nechtav? What does that mean? So he says, I mean it was written lishma. That's going to be the response of the shliach. So in terms of the statement, he doesn't say the word lishma. But the court will ask, or he says, Rashi says, we don't even have to ask him. The presumption when he says, when he means, that's what he means. What else could he mean?
And if you're declaring, why is there a question? You know, the whole point of declaring for an nechtam is you're declaring it's a good get. So why, if you have to ask what you mean by that, then why declare?
Let's say it was written before you. Look, you know, there's an expression. It's called, you ever hear oilam goylam? You ever hear that? Most people, they have no idea. The rabbi said, that's what I should do, I did it. It was written before me. Was it written lishma? He says, I don't even know what the word lishma means. You know, the man knows nothing. I mean, it's a presumption. It's a presumption if you understand. The man hasn't understand what it's supposed to be. Then you can make that presumption. So he says, either you ask him and he has to respond, he doesn't respond, it's not valid. Maybe written. It was written by a person who what? The man didn't know the laws, didn't know the halacha. Right? No, I understand, but if you're concerned about that small minority, so you want it, that's what we're addressing. So therefore we ask him to put it at rest. We ask, was it lishma? He says yes.
But he doesn't have to see it written.
Of course he has to see it written. He said, Foni nechtav. Okay. Rabba my time lo makarava. Now he says phenomenal. Why does Rabba reject Rava's position regarding certifying the signatures that they're not forgeries? Let him just say Foni nechtam. When you normally certify a document, you substantiate. What do you talk about the signatures? If that's the concern, because you're not able to locate the witnesses because it came from overseas, only talk about the signatures. What are you talking about? The writing of the get, right? The forgery is always in the writing of the get. We're not concerned about lishma. So if you're not concerned about lishma, why talk about the Foni nechtav, the Foni nechtam? It's definitely not a forgery because I witnessed the signature, the witness is signing, right? Imkain nisli Foni nechtav v'sulo. So if so, Foni nechtav lomali. So what does he have to attest that it was written before him? So evidently, what is the writing? Writing has relevance to lishma. Shma minos, it's seemingly conclusive proof that the basis for the statement is being lishma. So how does Rav respond? Okay. The back and forth is an interesting back and forth. The Rava, b'dinhu the listening hochi. Rava says factually, he should only have to say b'fonei nechtam. B'fonei nechtam, because the value of his statement is purely to substantiate the get that it's not a forgery. The signatures are not forgeries. So, but we have a problem. You know, people, they make comparisons. If by get a single witness is sufficient, so substantiate the get, so why by a monetary document, why do you need two? right? That's the first question they ask. One should be sufficient. So we answer because get is the exception, because otherwise the woman will remain a living widow. That's the concern. A regular get, you want to collect, go locate two witnesses. Otherwise, the burden of proof is on the one who claims that he's owed the money, that's an authentic document. So go certify it. People will confuse it. If one witness is sufficient by get, so one witness should be sufficient by certifying any monetary document.
Even though the get is a shliach, it's not an aid.
Doesn't make a difference. He is, no. He's an aid.
No, not an aid, but he's a shliach.
No, if he's not a shliach, he can't deliver it. But what is the thrust of his statement? Why is he making the statement? Not to tell me he's a shliach. To tell me that that the signature is an authentic signature.
Just like a star.
So if it's like a star, people will confuse it. So how do people realize that this is different than the normal certifying of a document? Because we talk about the writing of the document, not only the signatures. So people, why does it make a difference? People don't have to know why it makes a difference. But there is a difference. Once there's a difference, they don't make comparisons. They don't compare one to another. Okay, that's Rav's response. It will be confused with certifying documents normally with Neid Echad. So it seems to be Rav is saying good, right? Rav's response is a valid response. Rav is not satisfied. Why? Rabba Midomi. Rav said, what kind of comparison? There will be no confusion. Why will there not be confusion? Normally when you certify a document, when the witnesses come, what do they say? We recognize the signatures. So what terminology? Yadinon, Yodea. We know. When a get is certified, and you speak about substantiating the signatures, what does he say? Befonei nechtam. He's not saying, I recognize it. He says, it was signed in front of me.
Star.
No, a get.
Okay.
A get, you just says, what's our question? It may be a forgery.
Right.
So you get witnesses come, they say, we recognize the signatures. Right. Either it's our signatures, it's ours, or we recognize it's these individual signatures. It's not a forgery. So the terminology is yadinon. We know. Anachnu yodim. By get, how does the shliach certify the signature? I witnessed. What would he say? I recognize the signature. It's not enough. By get, he has to say it was signed in front of me. That's the way they legislated it. So if so, there's no confusion, because everybody's regular kim shtoros. It's yadinon. Get, it's more than yadinon. You had actually witnessed the signing of the document. So as a result, people immediately say, "Oh, get is different."
Wait a minute, so if someone brings a get and brings it and presents it, and the shliach doesn't know, but someone says, "I recognize those signatures," that get is not valid.
Unless you have two witnesses, then you would need two.
Then you would need two.
Then you would need two. But if the shliach himself is certifying it, he says, "B'fonei nechtam," it was signed in front of me. So that's what Rabbi is saying. It's not comparable. There's no confusion here. So if there's no confusion, why do you have B'fonei nechtav? So evidently that tells you, because it's a question of lishma, he has to attest the fact that it was written lishma. Rabbi Domi, hosem yadinon, hocha b'fonai. That's one differentiation, which is the main differentiation. Also, hosem ishel lo mehemno, to what's his name, to certify a document. You need valid witnesses. What about a woman? A woman is not qualified to be an aid. So by get, a woman could say b'fonei nechtam, and by shtar, a woman cannot say b'fonei nechtam. So therefore, evidently, this is different than the ordinary certification of a document.
Well, the fact that she could bring it herself.
Well, we didn't get there yet. We didn't get there yet. Hocha isha mehemno. Okay? By akima shtar, by certifying regular documents, a woman's not believed. By a get, a woman is believed. If she brings it, she says b'fonei nechtam, she's believed. So again, it's not to be confused. Hosam baldover lo mehemen. What about the baldover? The lender would say, I recognize the signature to be a signature. It's relevant what you recognize. You understand? You're a baldover. You have a conflict of interest. Of course you're certifying it. You want to collect. Without that, you can't collect. What about a get? A husband says to his wife, I want you to take the get. Hear this? He gives her the get, and it will only be a get when you arrive at a certain location, and you will testify before the court. B'fonei nechtam. Okay? She brings a get from overseas, and the husband says, and when you arrive in New York City from Odessa, you'll tell the court that I gave you the get, and you're the agent. So the get, she's the husband and the wife simultaneously. Here, the husband appointed to be the equivalent of a shliach. That in New York, when she has the get, it's like she's receiving the get from the husband. But if it's coming from overseas, she has to attest to its validity. She says, "B'fonei nechtam," it's valid. But she's the baldover. By her validating the get, now she's divorced. If the lender would say, "I recognize the signatures," it means nothing. But by get, when she says the signatures are authentic, now she's divorced. So therefore, people will not confuse the two. No, another woman's not a baldover. So two different things. We're making differentiations. We're making different. No, because it's not a problem, baldover here. Again, that goes into the leniency. This is all the leniency by Mishum Aguna. Now it's interesting. So, wait a second. Rabbi says, of course, it'll be confused. So Rabbi says, but how do you confused? A is not like B. People will not confuse the two. Right? So therefore, yes, funny nechtav. So factually, what do we allow a woman to be a shliach, to deliver a get? Rav is concerned. The reason why it's funny nechtav is because people will use a single witness to certify a monetary document. So what about they'll use a woman to certify a document? What? No, but people confuse the two.
She could be the shliach.
1 second. Rav argues with Rabbah. Rabbah says if the shlich would say, "I recognize the signature," he would say it was signed before me. Rabbah says it's valid. He doesn't have to use the terminology, "It was signed before me." Let's say it's his best friend's signature, and he wasn't there when it was signed, and the shlich would say, "I recognize the signature." It's good enough. It's good enough. That's what Rav is saying. No, the agent is saying. The agent's also the witness. When he says, "B'fonei nechtam," of course he's a witness. It's Mishum Aguna Kil B'Rabbanu. We're only lenient because of Aguna, but he's a witness. We accept the testimony of one witness because of Aguna. So here, we said, Rabbah says, you have to say B'fonei nechtam. If you say, "I recognize," it's not good enough. Rabbah says, "I disagree with you." You could say, you're able to say, "Yadina, I recognize it," even though it wasn't signed. If that's the case, there's confusion. So if there's confusion, you have to say, that's why you have to speak about the writing. That people should not confuse the ordinary certification of a document with the certification of the get. That's exactly why. Okay? Now, we have a problem. So Rabbah says, you have to say, "Fonei nechtam." Because he says to Rabbah, what do you have to say? If it's only certification, substantiating the signatures, why discuss the writing? So why do you discuss the writing? The answer is because lishma. Because the get has to be written lishma. So we have a problem. Where do we find that the chasim has to be lishma? Seemingly, if the concern is not certifying the signatures, all the shlich only says, "B'fonei nechtav." Why discuss nechtam altogether? If you say the signatures have to be also signed lishma, they signed specifically for this couple, so then you have to speak about the writing, the text of the get, and you have to speak about the signing. But who holds that? What does the Torah say? V'kosav lo sefer krisus. V'kosav lo. It should be written specifically for her. So what does kosav mean? That's the text. Doesn't mean v'chosam. But we're going to see, there's machloks in the Gemara, Reb Meir and Reb Lozer. When Torah says v'kosav, what does kosav mean? Does it mean the text of the get? Or v'kosav means v'chosam? So there's an argument. Does the ksiv have to be lishma? or does the chasim have to be lishma? What's the halachic difference? If one couple writes it has a get written for them, and then afterwards the sofer, they change their minds. They're not interested. And another couple wants, it wasn't signed. Another couple wants to use that get, another couple can use the get, according to the mayor. According to the mayor, the other couple can use the get. It says, afilu motza ba'ashpa. You find it in the trash can, the waste can. You find a get, and it was not signed. That get can be taken. It has all the same identical information. You just have to sign it lishma. The witnesses have to be authorized by the husband to sign that get, and it's written, signed for this particular couple. It's a valid get. That's a mayor. That's Edi Chasim Karsi. So if that's the case, all you have to say is what? Fonei nechtam. According to Rabbi Lozer, that he says, no, it has to, when it says kosa means, it has to be written lishma. So you should only have to say fonei nechtav. So that's Gemara's question. But what do you have? Either say one or the other, not both. To be continued.